Alright, so this is the one thing you should never, ever, ever do. Never go to Comic-Con dressed as like a stormtrooper or any character ever. I'm just kidding. But basically, what I wanted to talk about is how don't like base your whole personality on like your coping mechanisms. There's a lot of people that use Star Wars to cope with the fact that they were lonely at some point. Like if you were lonely as a kid, your parents, they abuse you by just never hanging out with you, and they worked long hours, or they went out when they got home and they just left you there, and now you're in the Star Wars, and that's how you got by. So now you're gonna hold on to that, for the rest of your life. You're like, oh, I'm a stormtrooper. Obviously, you don't think that you are, but you start going to the conventions, and then it's like your whole identity is based off of that. And I don't think that's something that you should do, unless you. The only time you should get into those type of hobbies, I think, is if you were just naturally into something, without any type of interference from anybody. It wasn't something you were coping with. You're just naturally into what you're into, and people will say and think that they're doing that, but in reality, most people who are abused can't really make that decision. Like they can, but they don't really think about it too much. They just kind of go with the flow. Like I like this, so then I'm gonna spend the next 30 years diving deeper and deeper into it, to the point where I've wasted a lot of time, and that's just how it is, and there's nothing really wrong with that. Like, you're not harming anybody, nobody's getting hurt, if it brings you joy. But there might be something else out there that could bring you more joy, is my point. And let's go to like another example. Like, if you were bullied as a kid and you learned some martial arts, and that helped you, it was a positive thing, but now you want to become like an instructor, right? And so you train little kids, and this positive thing, and everybody loves you in the community. But in the end, you might have been somebody who was supposed to become like a lawyer, or a business owner, or something else, and you might not have given yourself a chance, man. You just kind of took it too far. You never know, and it's easy to take it too far if you're the type of person who's been like gaslit like your whole life. You can take things too far very easily, and this is a cautionary tale that I'm letting you in on. I've done certain things. I've done things that I kind of based my identity on, and like I realized that that's not really the real me. Like, what am I doing? And it's the same thing with just like your general behaviors. Like, we even like identify ourselves sometimes based on our responses to like adversity or abuse or whatever. It's not just what you do as a hobby. If you're the type of person who snaps really easy because that's what was normal in your household, and now you think that, oh, I'm a snapper, I have a hard time controlling my anger. That's a behavioral acne, that in particular, not dressing up as a stormtrooper, but I'm talking about just straight having little behaviors that you do that's kind of like not the best and you just kind of learned something that helped you survive before that doesn't serve you now. That's more like having a flare-up. That's more like acne than anything else. So that's the reason why I call it that. I call it behavioral acne. And it could be anger, it could be you trying to fit in really hard, like people call it being try hard, and basically you could have been the type of person who was left out a lot as a kid. Now you grow up and you try really hard, even though you don't have to. Um, and that in and of itself, right? That's like a subject of itself that you have to dive into and really learn. And um, the main reason why I'm bringing up this video is just kind of to slay some sacred cows. You know what I mean? Like the whole idea of, well, I'm gonna teach kids, like I said before, some stuff is positive, but it's still not you. You know, the idea of you thinking that, oh, I'm gonna teach kids to defend themselves. Like nobody can argue against that. You know, but deep down, you know that you're supposed to be doing something else. Only you know that, right? And the same thing with the sacred cows as far as Comic-Con. Like you're not supposed to speak against Comic-Con. Like that's, you're never supposed to speak against Comic-Con. But I don't think that everybody there is supposed to be there, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of stuff to be. And you know what? The perfect word for it is to compete in that. Like you're competing, even though you're really not, but you are. So anyway, I've never been, so I can't say for sure. Like this is just like an outsider's perspective, and it's kind of an insider's perspective because, like, at the end of the day, like I said, I have had like certain identities that I had to kind of shed, and just basically understand that you can redefine yourself. You can redefine yourself. You don't have to go with whatever was kind of given to you, like whatever circumstances you were put in. You just identify yourself as the person who survived this. It's like, no, like you guys get my point. You get my point. Yeah, so I finished the Flow Within, and yeah, it's awesome. It's deep. It's really deep. It's like almost too deep. Like I think that I might have went too deep on this, just because I'm touching subjects that a lot of people don't really talk about, so it doesn't feel as comfortable like putting it out, because it's like a lot of personal thoughts, you know, like about subjects, and I feel like I'm slaying a lot of sacred cows, and some people might be like offended by it. Like I might offend somebody by like some of my takes on things, and please, like, don't be offended. It just needed to be said, and I'm not saying that I'm 100% the authority on how you should live your life. Even though I'm like, I'd say I'm about 30%. Like you should listen to me about 30% of the time on like your personal life. Like things are really important to you. You go to my videos, and I'll decide for you in an indirect way. You can kind of like be like, okay, I feel like he's talking to me, even though I don't really know the facts or anything about your situation. So definitely defer to me. But at the end of the day, you know, it's out. I'm gonna release it. It's gonna be out there, and hopefully, even if you're offended, if you take something from it, like if you take one or two things from it that changes or transforms your life, then it's worth it. And that's all I got. You know, thanks. You know, you guys are beautiful. You guys are my flowers. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna call you guys for now on. I got rid of the psychic thing. I think that's kind of that was a tool that we used for a moment, and now we're on to our next tool. And I think I'm gonna stick with that. You guys are flowers, man. You guys learn how to flow with life, and in the most constructive way. So I mean, let's just get it, man. This is life. Let's live life together, you know. And that's all I got. Peace.